And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're back in business with a community showdown between the Warherd of the Shadow Gabe, who shall be led by Captain Capable, facing off against the Wood Elves, who shall be led by Alexis and Durthu. Should be quite a bit of fun. The builds definitely look pretty awesome. Now, for the Beastmen here in the front line, it's going to be the old, tried and trusted. Oh, look at the scheme on these guys. Yeah, the Warherd of the Shadow Gabe, kind of cool, like this albino Beastman army, but nonetheless, this is a very common combo, basically. So use Ungor Spearman herds in the front line because they only cost like 300 gold, and they do have anti-large, which can be somewhat pertinent against Wood Elves, of course, with Wild Riders and some of the new monsters they do have, but basically just do this because they're the cheapest variant. They have 6,700 HP, 120 models. They take a beating for the Beastmen gods for sure, the Chaos gods, I suppose. And in the back, you stack spawn on top of them. So it's going to be quad spawn, one Ungor Raider, which I like that. That's a nice little touch just to give you some annoying poke that your opponent does have to deal with. Otherwise, the Raiders will, pay for themselves multiple times over. But yeah, pretty cool core. Here in the trees, it's going to be the Butchers of Kalkengard, very much a standard of Beastmen competitive play. They hit incredibly hard with 110 weapon strength, have pretty good combat stats with 45 and 56. Silver shields, they regenerate, they cause terror. Many things that are very applicable. This shoulder pad almost looks like it reminds me of like a Blood Bowl piece or something like out of the NFL or something. I don't know why that thought just like went into my head, but pretty cool. Butchers of Kalkengard. Warwick the Shadow Gabe, of course, leading his own faction, a Bray Shaman with Cygor summoning, always a good choice. And here on the far side of the battlefield, it looks like the Beastmen do have a vanguard force of the Sons of Goros, Chaos Warhounds, and Centaurs. Now, one reason why you might be asking, why is he bringing a great weapon unit against the Wood Elves? You don't really need the AP as much. Well, there are Treekin units, right? Like Durthu and Treekin, but more importantly, you bring Sons of Goros to deal with the Arawar Dryads, or the Arawar Great Stag Knights, which are ghostly ethereal units. So having the magic damage on these guys gives you a way to basically fight back against them. So I really like this pick here from the Beastmen player. So now for the Hardwood Elves, it's going to be Dryads into the sunset. 1, 2, 3, 4. Double Zote here in the back. Zote should be pretty good here. Anti-large. Armor piercing not as pertinent, but nonetheless the anti-large and their healing and their flesh to stone should be quite helpful against the spawn and some of that big mass over there from the Beastmen. A couple archers in the back line. Going to be Glade Guard. Looks like 2 in total. Double Zote. Spears defending. Dryads, and it is going to be Big Papa Durthu coming in with the Lore of Beasts. So there's not going to be any Lore of Life here, but when you have dual Zote, you're getting 4 Earthbloods for free, right? So you don't really need it, which I think is really cool. It kind of opens up other lores of magic, and yeah, quite neat. So he's got Flock of Doom, Pan's Pelt, as well as, wow, no Manticore Summon. It's a bold strategy. Yeah, Curse, Pelt, and Flock of Doom. Yeah, the Manticore Summon definitely quite good against Beastmen, but it's cool to see some experimentation with other abilities, and a Glade Captain as well on a Great Stag, which does give the +5 melee attack aura. So the battle is underway. The Beastmen are advancing on. The Spears march valiantly into the face of the Dryads, which will massacre them quite badly. However, Dryads do take quite a righteous beating from the Chaos Spawn. Dryads do have 60 armor and physical resist, but Spawn hit very, very hard with 130 weapon strength, and also do poison damage as well. For anyone who doesn't know, Beastmen Spawn do less damage overall than the Warriors of Chaos Spawn, but they do have poison to kind of make up for that. Frontline fighting is underway. Spawn have piled in, and the Sword of Daith is now active, and you can see the Dryads are holding pretty well, and here comes the Great Stag, such a cool looking model. And Durthu is also going to be coming in as well, dropping, I believe, a Flock of Doom right here, I would imagine. Let's go ahead and see what he's doing. He's doing some big witchcraft. Maybe that was like an Ember Spear or something? Hard to tell, but so far the Zotes are doing great work. Spawn are getting worn down, the Zotes are just doing huge damage, and the Archers are shooting freely, but on that same note, the Beastman Ambush is about to come into play. So Centaurs back here, Centaurs, a lot of openings. Spear units are relatively decent for defending your back lines if you're more tightly packed, but if you have a spatial formation like this where you're trying to control more battlefield, it's very tough for an Eternal Guard unit to really cover this much space. So the Beastmen definitely could cause some problems. Nice little rear charge here from the Sons of Goros. Able to get some decent damage against those Dryads. And here comes the Centaur charge in the back, going to be running down many of these Glade Guards. Centaurs are exceptional at killing these type of archers. They're also shielded themselves, so basic Centaurs, I think, are very much a staple of this matchup. In the front line, though, it looks like it's going a lot better for the Hardwood. The Zotes are just beating the brakes off these Chaos Spawn. Just absolute pound town right there as a Spawn are taking down. And also, Durthu's in pretty good shape. He's cleaving them with his giant Optimus Pine sword here. And it looks like these Spawn, as well as these other Spawn, are just down for the count. On this side, the Zotes have given themselves Flesh to Stone, which is a great countermeasure against the low armor-piercing damage of the Chaos Spawn. And the Dryads are still holding firm. So in many ways, looks like the Wood Elves are in a pretty comfortable position as far as the blob fighting goes and the frontline fighting, but the Beastmen still have Morker. They obviously still have the Butchers of Kalkengard really causing a ton of disruption here in the back line, and the Eternal Guard a little bit out of position as they could potentially stop the Butchers or at least hold them back, but I guess they just get terror routed anyway, so it doesn't matter. It's a bit of a moot point. Also, you have to remember there is a dreaded Cygor summon here in the backfield. It looks like it is a fresh Cygor summon. No, it's actually at its second tier. but that is going to give some nice boulders to throw into the healthy Eternal Guard. Typically, you want to throw the boulders into infantry, not so much at single entities, but it still can make decent damage, I suppose, if it hits Durthu right in his old face right there. But Durthu, he's used to taking beatings and whatnot. You can tell he's all scarred up. But here comes the Ungors, back from their prolonged vacation. Going to be piling in to fight the Dryads, and Durthu's going to be coming in to send a message here. Yeah, I think he's attacking Durthu with the rocks, which is pretty epic for sure. But definitely you would want to be targeting the Eternal Guard in different units like that. So another blob fight here, guys. The Zotes are both relatively healthy. One of them, I suppose, has lost a couple models, and the spawn still can put some hurt on them, but there's only 2 spawn left. And I suppose the Butchers of Kalkengard probably could trade relatively effectively there in a vacuum, but there's also Eternal Guard here. There's so many variables that are going very well for the Wood Elves here on this engagement. And here comes the Great Stag Knight, lending its awesome DPS as well as its melee attack buff to the blob. One of the Zotes actually picked off there by a Cygor ball, it looks like, as the second Cygor is summoned here in the battlefield, giving the Beastmen a much-needed kind of power boost here as the battle does rage on. And the Brave Shaman, a very brave cow here, going to be ramming into the hide of Durthu. Or Barker, whatever you want to say. Durthu could turn around and definitely pimp slap that thing. So yeah, the Brave Shaman is going to be running. But that was a good distraction. The Beastman player kind of temporarily buying some time for this blob fight, for his spawn and his butchers to keep going. But yeah, it looks like the Butchers of Kalkengard got spanked on pretty good like. So let's go ahead and take a big overhead look at the battlefield. Now the Beastmen have kind of asserted their dominance overall in the mobile game, right? They have the Centaurs here, the Hounds here. We do have the Sons of Goros in the back. Granted, the Wood Elves do have a pretty scary blob, but cycle charging is really going to become a pretty substantial factor, especially with a Cygor plus Raider shooting. It means the Wood Elves can't really sit and take this conservative approach, right? They're going to have to move out, they're going to have to fight. And Morker is also a bit of an annoying presence to deal with. I believe Morker has pretty massive magic resist, and of course Durthu does do magic damage. Let's actually go ahead and double check that. It's something I always get wrong, but here is the cow himself. The Minecraft cow. Yeah, 25% mitigation, certainly not bad. It's better than nothing, that's for sure. And he should be able to kill a fair amount of Zotes in just straight up combat. Zotes, of course, do have the magic dampening, which is very cool. So the Zotes, I guess, could lower his magical resist and really allow Durthu to go Optimus Pine. You know, and on that note, it might have been a better call just to form a circle beating on top of Durthu right now, because I think the Wood Elves are making a pretty massive mistake right here. They had a scary blob, they have Durthu, they have Terror, the Zotes have their healing, but now that they're kind of splitting up, it gives the Beastmen with a more mobile force the opportunity to pick things off, right? So here, you know, the Zotes have engaged. They'll obviously be able to kill some of the Ungor Raiders, but, you know, these guys are a little bit isolated. Centaurs could collapse here. Durthu is isolated. Now he's taking some damage from the Butchers of Kalkengard, all of which didn't really need to happen. And these Centaurs get a beautiful charge into the Zotes. And Zotes only have 60 armor when Flesh of Stone is inactive, so the Centaurs and Poison Hound should be able to break him. And now these other Sons of Goros, really nice isolation here by the Beastmen, capitalizing on the mistake here from the Wood Elves, coming in and just karate chopping all these isolated units. And the great, you know, the Great Glade Captain here, such a cool unit. I really love the Great Stag models. I think one of my favorite models I've seen in quite some time. Are, you know, kind of being isolated and picked off, whereas if the Zotes had stayed with Durthu, they'd have some monstrous support. Granted, the same thing could have happened. All right, even if the Wood Elves had stayed together, that is a shit ton of Beastmen. Sons of Goros are healthy, Centaurs are healthy, there's poison, there would have been Raiders shooting them. It's more than likely that the Zotes would have broken. Granted, I still think they would have had a much better chance had they kind of stuck together there. And this is a nice pick here from the Wood Elves, able to get the Butchers of Kalkengard, getting Battle of the Bastarded here. It looks like they're trying to move out, but the new mass changes make it much harder to push through infantry. And the Butchers, yeah, really getting wrecked and just picks apart here. And Durthu, yeah, I think that's cool. I actually like that. You know, I always was kind of annoyed that spear units and halberd units couldn't really actually kill monsters. Monsters could just ignore them and run from them and cycle charge them. But it's cool to see the monsters get stuck on spears. It's kind of like thematic, and I think makes sense. Anyways, Beastmen just chasing everything down, definitely smart. There's a fair amount of Eternal Guard, which if these Guard were able to stand shoulder to shoulder with Durthu, that could be a huge problem here for the Beastmen. But now that they're isolated, being cycle charged by a chariot without any support, the Sons of Goros, of course, hit pretty hard with 34 weapon strength and a nice little charge bonus there. These guys probably will die relatively soon, or at least be chased off. So back in the center mass here, we do have the Eternal Guard and Durthu. It looks like Morker's in a little bit of a precarious situation. Where's that Glade Captain too? The Glade Captain, I think, got chased off. Yeah, Glade Captain got killed by some Centaurs, which makes sense. It only has, you know, 60 armor, and its melee defense, I suppose, is pretty good. But yeah, it's not. It's more of an anti-large unit. It's not meant for crowd clearing and things like that. So it's going to be paying the price here. Couple Eternal Guard holding firm. Durthu might have some magic in his back pocket. Obviously, he's out dueling Morker, but Morker is still getting some good damage in, and now the Sons of Goros are coming in pretty strong. Charge bonus of 45. They do also have the Perfect Vigor, if I'm not mistaken, the Rowdy trait, so those guys are able to be pretty substantial here into the late game, and honestly, these little Ungor Raiders still poking, still being annoying, but this is a nice reprieve here from the Wood Elves. Getting these Dryads back in, man, that must feel good. It's like the savior is coming from over the hill at Helm's Deep, but they're going to be charging in. Dryads should do some huge damage here against Centaurs. Balance of power is really Beastmen favored though, largely due to the fact that there is a Bray Shaman to the wild and also Sons of Goros very healthy. And Workers, you know, he's tanking Durthu like a champ with that 25% magic resist. He's going to last much longer than other characters would, in conjunction, of course, with his regeneration. Flock of Doom going down, spanking the beast people here. Some of the Centaurs definitely taking some damage. Durthu's he's making his move, man. He's trying to get on those other targets. Kind of feeling probably that Worker is actually outlasting him here a little bit as the cycle charging from the Sons of Goros comes in. That's going to be a fair amount of AP damage in his back, and you can see instantly on the charge he takes about 500 damage, which is huge. And yeah, just Beastmen coming from all directions. Really, really good play for sure. Both players played a pretty awesome game. Little mistakes here and there, of course, but you know, everyone makes little mistakes. But ultimately made for a very entertaining showcase, showing that the Beastmen still they got some hooves, they got some teeth, they got some action going on. And yeah, I like the build. Sons of Goros I think are a must. I think because this is a a pretty decent build against Beastmen for sure. I've kind of started to feel like I don't like to bring archers against Beastmen. My initial builds against Beastmen with Wood Elves were archer based. I had like 3 Starfire shafts to try and like melt down the butchers and the spawn and different things like that. But I started to find that it's really hard to defend your backline against Beastmen. Even if you like have a ton of stuff, they're just so good at summoning units, Cygors throwing boulders into your archers. So I sort of found that going for like this big scary Wood Elf blob with Durthu's good. You could bring like Durthu and Aerial, like Durthu without his spells and bring Aerial for Soul Stealers against Beastmen blobbing. I do like the Zotes though, 1800 and freaking 900. I was actually pretty impressed with them. I didn't think they'd be that good here, but they actually perform pretty well, and it's cool. Like I said, you can bring other Lords of Magic, and you're not as dependent. So yeah, both builds are pretty neat for sure. And the Spawn, how'd they do? Yeah, Spawn did okay. I find that the Spawn are more of a distraction card effects, but in my experience, I feel like I want to change the way I play this matchup. I used to do Spawn rushes like Captain Capable did here, and he was able to win the game with his mobility, right? Sons of Goros 1900, 1600 here. His mobile units really carried the day. The Spawn really, I keep finding they like take so much damage from Dryads and Eternal Guards. Part of me thinking like going for a WARHERD front line, and WARHERDs will really put a hurt on Dryads for sure. And then maybe just get like more Centaurs, more Ungor Raiders, more mobility, stuff like that. It's just something to consider for sure. I mean, obviously he made it work and it was a functional build, but I'm just kind of theory crafting how to get more value out of these resources, right? Because the Cap really had to carry that game, and they did. He played really well with them. And yeah, I like this Wood Elf build as well. It's relatively similar in principle to what I had used before. I didn't use Zotes. I used the Arwar Great Stag Knights, but you can see here he did have some countermeasure, but that's not to say the Sons of Goros are going to kill them outright. The Great Stag Knights are still really meaty, and if you have some sort of healing with them, like a Zote with regrowth or something, they can just be an unholy terror for the poor Beastmen. But yeah, it was a good game. I really did like that one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that community showdown between Captain Capable and I, Alexis. All right, my friends, you guys take care. Stay safe in this cursed year, and we'll see you back with more replay soon. Take care, guys.